Alright, so it's actually been more than a month I'm using this phone as my daily driver. I've got it since the day it was released, and in this video I'll share my top 5 things I like on this overpriced device and possibly help you decide if this phone is worth your money. Well, starting things off, I'm gonna be real, this phone is overpriced for what it offers. But it's Apple, they have a big market share and a strong brand loyalty, so they do whatever they want, but because of that, this phone holds its value pretty good. Which means you can use this phone for about a year or so and still sell it for a decent amount of price. Well, starting off the list, the first and one of my most favorite things on this phone has to be the display. It's a edge-to-edge display. The display is absolutely amazing. It's an OLED panel. I like the colors, the details, the sharpness, and while everything else in general is really nice. And well, let's be real, if you're getting an iPhone X, the number one reason has to be the display. And it's one of the things that will differentiate your iPhone X from other iPhones. Now, some people with sensitive eyes reported their iPhone would make their eyes hurt when using it in low brightness. And this basically happens when your brightness is less than 50%. So when your brightness is less than 50%, what the phone does is it flickers on and off instead of actually dimming the display. This is one of the things with OLED panels, and for the iPhone X, some people do report this problem, but for me it didn't seem to be a problem at all. I personally really like the display. It's a really good experience using an edge-to-edge display, and it's one of the things you just get used to and you won't really notice a difference unless you use someone's iPhone 5, 6, 7 or even iPhone 8 Plus. That's when the big buttons pop up and you really feel the advantage of the phone you have. Now, some people might say it's a little smaller than the plus size iPhones, and yes, in width it is, but it's also so much smaller in terms of the actual footprint, which really matters here. The iPhone X is easy to keep in your pocket and you can even take it out without ever having to stand up. With the plus size iPhones, not so much. And when watching content on the iPhone X, you do see the black borders on the side, but you're easily able to remove them by zooming in. And yes, you will miss out on some content, but let's admit it, the iPhone X looks much better and the content that's been cropped out doesn't really make a big difference here. A wider ratio is just more pleasant and what looks better. This is why films are shot in that aspect ratio and even some TV series now. We do have a small cutout on the top for the cameras and the earphones, but honestly it doesn't bother me at all. And it does blend in pretty good, and for the most part I don't even notice it's there. Alright, so the second thing would have to be the camera. It's a very capable camera in such a small device. It's a 12 megapixel dual camera which is able to record at 4K 60 frames per second. And it also does a slow motion of 240 FPS with 1080p resolution, which is hard to find not in just smartphones but any DSLR or anything in that price range. Pictures come out sharp with some really good detail and great color accuracy. Slow motion, as I said, works great, built-in stabilization for both lenses, and it's even better in low light conditions. Now this guy also has portrait mode, which does use the secondary camera, so it is 2x zoom and it does require some more light to work properly, and so far it's still a little bit of hit or miss. There still needs to be some tweaks and updates so the camera is able to detect the background and the foreground a little bit more accurately and doesn't create these weird effects around the corners. It does work okay taking pictures of other people for the most part, but for other things it doesn't work that well. Further on, we have some bunch of filters with the iPhone X, and honestly they all need a little bit of work, but studio and contour lighting seems to work pretty well. It only affects the subject or things that are in focus rather than working on the background. And for most part it's able to make the lighting look a little bit better. And the rest of them are honestly just a little bit of fun. I wouldn't really use them anywhere, and the pictures that come out of them aren't really that good either. And yes, you are able to change the pictures and the filters after the picture has been taken by simply editing the picture. So that's good to see, and this is also available for the front facing camera, which only has one camera but is still able to do that background blur and all of that. Now the third thing on the list would have to be the removal of the home button. I know this might sound a little bit crazy, but I actually don't miss the home button at all. I do miss the fingerprint scanner and even the headphone jack, but a virtual home button seems to be a little bit more fluent and adds a lot of more functionality. Like swipe to go to the previous app is pretty fast, very convenient, and especially when the app is ready to go for you without you having to wait for stuff to load back up again. Gestures just work a lot better for me. They're pretty fast, pretty convenient, and they're easy to adopt. Multitasking is also pretty fast. It's just a swipe up and right. Although one and the only thing I hate doing with gestures is opening up the control panel. It's just located at such a weird location and I just don't like swiping down to get my control panel. It's just not located at a convenient place, and I hate the fact I have to open the control panel to view my battery life. That's like the only place you'll find it. You can't find it in your notification centers or even your lock screen. I just think Apple needs to find a better way and a more convenient gesture to open control panel, since it is something I use a lot and we really should be able to see the battery life right on the display. They can just add the battery percentage within the icon. It's that simple. It'll be a little bit smaller, but at least something is there. Number 4 has to be power. I think it's an obvious one, but this thing has a lot of power and well optimized for performance. So it's definitely one of the things I appreciate on the iPhone X. And it's disappointing to see we don't have multitasking available on such a powerful device, but for individual apps and gaming, whatever you throw at it, it's able to justify the overpriced device. And if I try to squeeze the 5th one in, it would have to be iOS 11 and the hardware and just how everything blends well together. Haptic feedback works really good, just not for native apps, but even third-party apps like Transit apps, Snapchat, the light flash, and the camera button on the lock screen, which actually feels like you're pressing an actual button, all thanks to the haptic feedback. Tap to wake is very convenient, and my favorite part is hidden notification. It's the best thing ever. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, now when you get a notification on your lock screen, it just says the name. So text message, iMessage, Snapchat, email, Twitter, or whatever it is. So it won't show any form of content or a preview to even the name of the person the notification is from until it detects you from the Face ID. So it's a very good thing for privacy. Now I can ask anyone to get my phone for me or leave my phone on the table and not worrying about anyone knowing anything beside the application's name. And when I'm looking at my phone, everything's back to normal. I think you get my point. So yeah, just small things that enhance the user experience. And I know Face ID wasn't one of the things on the list because for me, it didn't really make it. Now don't get me wrong, I love Face ID when it works, but the technology wasn't really good enough to replace Touch ID. The only thing I like with Face ID that you won't really have with Touch ID is the private notifications or how your alarm automatically lowers in volume when you're looking at it. But even for that, you need to be at a proper distance and a proper angle for it to detect your face. So without anything blocking it or even partially covering your face up. So yeah, besides that, there isn't really added benefit with Face ID. Anyways, I'm going off topic, that's for another video. Pretty sure those were more than 5 things. I'm gonna wrap it up here. If you like this video, let me know in a comment down below and subscribe for more content like this. And as always, thanks for watching.